Welcome to this deep dive. For you listening, whether you run a business, maybe you create content, or you just closely monitor search architecture, the date, July 12th, 2026, it really marks a definitive line in the sand.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's a pivot point.
Right. We are pulling directly from the SEO Daily Technology Report, specifically published for 2026-07-12. And our mission here is to unpack the mechanics of this massive paradigm shift we're seeing in the data from that exact date. I mean, we are looking at the final transition from the era of, chasing blue links to this new era of earning AI citations.
And the data from that July 12 report sets the stage perfectly. I mean, the most staggering statistic is that Google's AI overviews are reducing organic clicks on the top traditional search result by a massive 34.5%.
Wow. Wait, 34.5%?
Yeah, 34.5. We are seeing Google's AI mode just rapidly replace the traditional search engine results page entirely, like often generating a final view with literally zero visible blue links.
That is just wild to think about. It completely changes the game.
Right. The architecture of discovery has fundamentally inverted. If you picture a massive networking event, say a few years ago, the strategy was essentially to shout the loudest.
Right. You target high-volume keywords, blast a bunch of backlinks.
Exactly. You climbed over everyone else to stand on a chair at position number 1, just hoping the crowd would look at you.
But looking at the reality mapped out on July 12th, 2026, the crowd isn't listening to the loudest person anymore, are they?
No, they really aren't. They are gathered around one incredibly calm, articulate entity right in the center of the room, which is the AI model. And that AI is just quietly answering everyone's questions.
So you don't need to shout to the crowd at all.
You don't. You just need that central AI to turn and say, according to my trusted colleague over here, these are the facts.
Which, I mean, that completely redefines the objective of a search professional. The goal is no longer traditional ranking. It's what the report calls Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO.
Yeah, GEO is the new baseline. You are no longer trying to be just a link on a page. Your entire digital infrastructure has to be built to be the underlying factual source that a large language model actually relies on to probabilistically generate its answer.
And the technical mechanism for achieving that citation is fascinating. The July 2026 report highlights this rapid adoption of the llms.txt file.
Yes, the llms.txt. It's a massive shift.
But looking at the mechanics of this, I really have to challenge the premise here. Because for over 2 decades, we've used robots.txt as like a defensive shield to tell crawlers what to ignore.
Right. Keep the bots out of the sensitive stuff.
Exactly. So implementing an llms.txt file, it feels like we are doing the exact opposite. We're curating our highest value proprietary data into this clean, markdown friendly file and literally handing it to the AI on a silver platter.
Handing them the exact roadmap, yeah.
Aren't we just, accelerating the very mechanism that steals our intellectual property without actually sending us traffic?
Well, that right there is the ultimate tension of the zero-click reality we are in as of July 2026. It is a calculated trade-off.
A trade-off between what and what, though?
Between visibility and protection. Because, look, large language models strip away the DOM structure of your website. They don't care about your CSS. They don't care about your beautiful visual layout.
Right, they just want the text.
They just want the raw semantic knowledge. So if you force an AI to scrape a complex HTML page, you introduce friction. And with friction comes the possibility of the model misinterpreting your data.
Okay.
The llms.txt file removes that friction entirely. It feeds the model exactly what it needs to understand your core entities. If you withhold that data out of, fear of intellectual property loss, the AI won't just give up.
It'll just find someone else.
Exactly. It will simply cite a competitor who made their data easily parsable.
So you essentially have to choose between being cannibalized for a citation or just being entirely invisible.
That's the reality of July 12, 2026.
Which means formatting our knowledge graph for these bots is basically non-negotiable for you listening. But if we are structuring data specifically for AI parsing, it's critical to acknowledge that Google's crawler is no longer the sole gatekeeper we have to satisfy.
Oh, absolutely not. The multi-engine ecosystem is fully established now. The data from the July 12 report shows that ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and Gemini are all sending highly meaningful referral traffic.
Right. So optimizing exclusively for Google's specific rendering engine, it leaves roughly half of the AI-driven discovery ecosystem entirely untapped.
And that's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
because these models process information differently based on their foundational training. They don't all want the same thing.
Yeah, the report breaks this down really well. Like, it notes Perplexity's behavior, it operates heavily on retrieval augmented generation, or RAG,
Right, which means it prioritizes recent authoritative sources.
with crystal clear citations, right? It
Yeah,
needs a fact it can immediately link back to.
exactly. But then you look at ChatGPT, which heavily favors conversational depth. It cross-references your claims against high-tier EEAT signals.
EEAT, so experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
Yes, ChatGPT needs to verify your expertise before it generates a response involving your brand. It wants to know you are a real authority.
And that variance requires a highly specialized approach to this generative engine optimization. I mean, you cannot just apply a monolithic strategy across these platforms.
You really can't.
So if Perplexity is all about RAG and freshness, and ChatGPT wants verifiable EEAT, I'm guessing Claude, given its specific architectural focus on complex tasks, is looking for something much more analytical.
Spot on.
Does it prioritize like logical reasoning and step-by-step breakdowns over just pure credentials or recency?
The underlying mechanism of Claude confirms exactly that in the report. It was trained to handle nuanced reasoning. So its citation algorithm prefers sources that offer deep, logical breakdowns of a topic rather than just surface-level facts.
It wants the whole thought process.
Yeah, it looks for content that explores the why and how deeply enough that the model can actually use your logic to construct its own synthesized argument.
But, I mean, monitoring visibility across all these different models, that requires an entirely new technical approach. We aren't just pinging a SERP to see if a URL ranks at position 3 anymore.
No, the old rank trackers are pretty much obsolete for this.
Right, because we have to track dynamic synthetic responses. The July 12, 2026 report highlights platforms like Trackings.ai and AthenaHQ, which handle this by running thousands of automated prompts at scale.
Yes, to calculate what they call a share of model voice.
Share of model voice, which is such a fascinating metric. They analyze the unstructured conversational output to detect how often your brand entity is mentioned in specific regions and during specific time intervals.
Which solves the most significant hurdle of the AI era.
Yeah.
Tracking the untrackable. Because a generative response is transient, right? It's generated on the fly.
Right, it's different every time.
Exactly. So you need tools that simulate user sessions constantly to tell you if, say, ChatGPT is recommending your logistics software in Europe, while Claude completely ignores you in North America.
Which naturally brings us to execution. If we have to satisfy these varying algorithmic appetites, the old methodology of keyword targeting is completely insufficient.
Completely dead.
The July 12, 2026 report firmly states that keyword obsession has been entirely replaced by entity SEO. And if we look at how models map information, relying on keywords was essentially giving the AI a bag of puzzle pieces without the box.
That's a great analogy.
You know, you hand over a bunch of disconnected terms and just hope the engine figures out the big picture.
Yeah.
But entity SEO is handing the AI the picture on the box, explicitly defining how every piece physically connects to the others.
So the technical structure behind that involves mapping out RDF triples.
RDF triples.
Yeah. Subject, predicate, object. You are not just placing words on a page anymore. You are establishing nodes in a graph. An entity is a definitively unique thing. A person, a place, a product.
Okay, so you structure your site to definitively state that brand X, which is a verified entity, produces product Y, which solves concept Z.
Exactly. When you explicitly define those relationships using that subject-predicate-object structure, the generative model doesn't have to guess. You remove the ambiguity.
And establishing those entities requires verifiable authority, which really explains why EEAT has transitioned from just a set of loose quality guidelines into hard-ranking factors.
Hard-ranking factors,
Yeah.
especially for your money or your life topics.
Right. The models are optimizing for certainty, aren't they?
They have to. An LLM is inherently a prediction engine, so it reduces its risk of hallucination by anchoring its generation to recognized authoritative entities.
So a perfectly coded website with massive information density, it will still lose the citation if the author lacks a real-world footprint.
100%. The model actively cross-references the entity against press mentions, industry citations, and a multi-platform presence. If you don't exist outside your own domain, the AI doesn't trust you.
Which means SEO and digital PR are no longer separate disciplines. You just cannot earn AI citations in 2026 without building off-site, real-world brand authority.
No, you can't.
And speaking of defining entities, the report highlights a highly critical update specific to July 12, 2026. Google just deployed new structured data properties for merchant listings.
This is a huge development for e-commerce.
Yeah, they specifically added category and sale duration using the JSON LD format.
And when you analyze why Google deployed those specific properties right on July 12, 2026, it points directly to how AI mode handles transactional queries.
Because the AI is trying to generate a real-time interactive shopping widget directly in the chat interface, right?
Exactly. It doesn't want to parse a flowery 5-paragraph product description to figure out if a shoe's on sale.
No, it needs the JSON LD code to definitively state, the category is running shoes and the sale duration ends in 48 hours.
Yes. If you don't feed the model those specific properties, it simply cannot confidently recommend your product in a real-time comparison generation.
Leaving e-commerce sites that fail to implement this updated structured data completely invisible during transactional AI sessions.
Which is a death sentence for a retailer.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, managing all of this, deploying llms.txt, monitoring share of model voice across 5 different LLMs, constructing entity relationship graphs, ensuring JSON LD properties are perfectly synced, it necessitates an entirely different technical stack than we used just a few years ago.
Oh, the 2026 Command Center has had to evolve incredibly rapidly to keep pace.
The legacy heavyweights have completely re-architected their platforms. They are no longer just data visualization dashboards.
No, they have integrated generative capabilities at the foundational level.
Take SEMrush, for example.
Yeah.
The report mentions their 2026 AI Copilot enhancements at about $119 a month. It bridges the gap between data collection and execution. It doesn't just show a drop in multi-channel performance.
Right. It interprets the anomaly, it suggests the specific technical action required, and then it automatically generates the strategic report for the stakeholders.
It's doing the agency work. And then you look at the infrastructure upgrades from Ahrefs, which is sitting at $99 a month. Maintaining an index refresh rate of 15 to 30 minutes for top domains, that is a massive technical feat.
It's massive, but it is strictly necessary because our reg models are fetching web data in real time. If your index is days old, it's useless for tracking AI visibility.
Right. And Ahrefs is also utilizing AI pattern recognition across their datasets to identify toxic link velocity and anomalies.
Entirely replacing the heuristic rules and, manual spreadsheet analysis that digital PR teams used to rely on.
Yeah. And my favorite workflow shift from the July 12 report comes from Screaming Frog. At $290 a year, they integrated this AI-powered issue prioritization that analyzes a site's architecture, and it actually ranks crawl problems by their potential ROI impact.
That feature is a game changer.
It fundamentally changes the dynamic between an SEO professional and a development team, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because instead of handing a developer a list of 1,000 canonicalization errors and watching their eyes glaze over, you hand them a business case stating that fixing a specific JavaScript rendering issue will yield a calculable percentage increase in potential traffic.
It translates technical friction into business revenue, which is essential when you are fighting for developer resources to implement things like the llms.txt or these new JSON LD properties we just talked about.
You need that business case to get anything done.
But the July 12, 2026 report also shines a light on the newer AI-first automation workspaces. These platforms are really redefining the production pipeline entirely.
Yeah, the native AI tools.
Platforms like AirOps are orchestrating multi-model workflows, integrating GPT, Claude, and Gemini into a single environment. And tools like WriteSonic, which is running about $249 a month, and Koala AI's unified workspace. They're generating content with complex schema markup and entity structures already baked in.
Which signifies the transition of optimization from, a manual craft into a semi-automated production pipeline. You are deploying software to programmatically generate the exact semantic density and structural formatting that LMs require.
Looking at the macro picture here, there is a profound irony in all of this.
How do you mean?
We are paying monthly subscriptions to massive AI platforms to generate content and schema markup, so we can organize it into llms.txt files purely to feed it to other AI search engines.
Yeah.
It is a closed loop of machines optimizing for machines, which really begs the question, where is the human value in this pipeline on July 12, 2026?
It's a great question. And the human operator provides the one element the machines cannot synthesize: trust. Human oversight is the only mechanism for injecting true EEEAT into the equation.
Because I mean, an AI workspace can generate a flawlessly structured 2,000-word analysis on supply chain logistics,
Right.
but it cannot organically earn a quote in the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly. And without that verifiable real-world footprint, the AI search engine parsing your perfectly formatted llms.txt file, it will identify the entity as synthetic noise.
And it'll just discard it in favor of a trusted, established expert.
The technical formatting just gets you crawled. The human authority is what gets you cited.
Synthesizing all the intelligence from the July 12, 2026 report, the mandate for you listening is crystal clear. The mechanics of visibility haven't been destroyed. They have just evolved into a much more sophisticated game.
Yeah, the rules just change.
Surviving the pivot requires moving from keyword targeting to complex entity mapping. It requires deploying standards like llms.txt to remove parsing friction. But above all, it requires a relentless focus on real-world brand authority, because EEAT is the only currency the models truly value at this point.
In analyzing the trajectory of these July 12, 2026 sources, it leaves us with a highly provocative scenario to consider.
Oh.
We are meticulously structuring our data to ensure large language models have everything they need to generate the perfect answer directly inside a chat interface. We are removing all friction for the AI.
We are giving them the fully baked answer.
Right, but if the AI successfully provides the consumer with everything they need right there on the search interface, we are rapidly accelerating toward a reality where the consumer never actually clicks through to the brand's website.
We achieve the citation, but we lose the traffic.
Exactly. And if that zero-click reality becomes the absolute standard, how will brands monetize their visibility when they no longer control the final destination?
Wow. Because if the traffic never arrives, the traditional conversion funnel just collapses entirely.
It forces us to ask how we capture value when our highest achievement is merely being whispered as a source by the AI in the center of the room.
That is a complex challenge to leave you with, but an absolutely essential one to solve as we navigate this new era. That brings us to the end of this deep dive into the specific events and technological shifts of July 12, 2026. Keep analyzing the architecture of the platforms you rely on, keep building verifiable brand authority, and never stop questioning the mechanisms driving the digital landscape around you.